All right, testing, 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 testing away. Just realized I'm like a couple minutes late. Hopefully it's not too much of an issue. I'll wait till I hear some chatters here if the sound is any decent. I'm getting some weird kind of like horizontal waves, which may be just from the camera being too close, but or not. Sometimes the amount of light affects the those waves. Sounds fine. That's good. All right. I'm a little worried about these horizontal waves that are showing up. Is anyone else seeing them, or is it just me? Move it away maybe a bit more. No. Huh. That's seems annoying. It's subtle. Maybe if I put my hand in. No. Still showing up. Huh. It's every week it's something new now, it seems. Yay. Anyway, all right. So now that Anzin's here, hi Anzin, how you doing? Thanks also for the reminder about the post, even though I was like actually putting together. I need to start putting these back up on Wednesday or Thursday as a post because I keep forgetting. All right. So what happened this week is I drew a week's worth of strips. I didn't finish inking them, but I drew them all and I did all the writing. You can see like these two strips here. Where what I do is I draw everything and I end up resizing as I write it, which is a very different, interesting way. Because I draw the strips on these 11 by 17 sheets here. So I do two strips per sheet. Then I draw everything out with an idea of what I'm going to write, and then I actually do the writing in the lettering phase. I take my notes and I turn them into writing, and sometimes I resize the art because that works. Oh, hey, Salgood, how you doing, Max? Should you really want people to call you Salgood on online, or is it okay calling you Max? Curious about that. Yeah, so I ended up doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Was it 5 or 6? I did. They're over there, and the story wasn't working. I took a small digression because I wanted to. Well, I still kind of take the digression here, but it went on too long. It was like dragging on with the Ovid version of the arachnid story, because as soon as after I finished telling the Ovid version, thank you. It's digital, of course. It's Eurocomic from Blambot, who is probably my favorite online letter guy. I like the shape of it. I feel it suits my line work pretty good, so it's pretty easy to choose that. Yeah, so I ended up scrapping it and starting again. So I'm going to be trying to post starting Monday 2 strips per day. So hopefully by the end of next weekend I'll catch up. So yeah, so it was disappointing, and a big part of it, honestly, was I changed the story I was going to. I think I mentioned this last week. I had changed the story I was going to do at the last minute. I felt my initial story was just too dark, too much of a horror story after like Nothing But Smiling Witches and Smiling Naked Witches, I should say. And I just figured, yeah, you know what? I should probably do something that feels a little bit more akin with that. So this is the spider narrator who no one expected. This spider narrator was also kind of a last minute in their thing. Initially, it was all going to be narrated by Arachne herself. But at the end, I like the idea of like an interplay of like language between characters. So I made the spider a character. And in the next strip, there's another character that shows up, which is actually good. Yeah, I got to tell you, digital lettering is come so far. And I gotta tell I love the Starkings people. I would be just as happy hiring Comic Craft as Blambot if I ended up hiring a letterer. I think I'm going to heavy up this line here a bit. They're both so good. Their digital output is just so amazing. And it doesn't hurt that I'm a terrible letterer when it comes to doing it by hand. There you go. That looks like a nice rougher line for the balloon. So yeah, I'm very happy. So I'm going to be lettering. I'm definitely sticking with Eurocomic for the entirety of this Witchtober story. Very likely all the stories, just for consistency, inside Tales from the Witch House are going to be lettered like this, even though the visual art styles are going to be all over the map a little bit. I'm going to be doing different art styles. Not everything's going to be pen and ink and all that stuff. So I really, initially, I was a little against digital lettering. I think when it first introduced, it just, so much of the initial digital lettering was really kind of cold. A little dehumanizing, I felt. But it's really caught up in terms of like the design and production of digital lettering to the point where it feels organic when it's done well. And there's bad digital lettering out there. I know I would not hire me to be a digital letterer. I'm doing the best I can here, and I think it's all right. Hey, Lucifer. But I do like, weirdly enough, it slows me down like crazy going back and doing the lettering and moving everything around. Is like I can pencil one of these pages in about 2 hours, maybe 3, depending on the content. Because there's almost no backgrounds; it's daily strips, so it's super fast. Problem is, as soon as I start doing the letters, it suddenly becomes like a 4 to 5 hour gig, as I slowly but surely, rewrite, replace the lettering, move the lettering around, change the drawing to go with the lettering I just did. It's an interesting experience. I think part of it's also because I haven't done it a lot. If I assume by the end of time I'm done Coven and I'm done traditional pages, once again the lettering all done, unless I hire a letterer, which I might do. Just get some of this bullshit spider anatomy. I'm not really drawing a real spider, obviously. I'm drawing a mock spider. Especially when I'm drawing like these stupid little spiky fingers he's got. Which is kind of fun to draw, just kind of like almost made up stuff. Which is kind of like most of what comics are. Yeah, but this is turning out, I think, much better in terms of like what I wanted for the first 2 weeks of the strip. This just the way I don't know how far. I'm only going to do about an hour and a bit. I'm not bringing up in an art book to talk about. I just want to see how much of the strip I can get done. Wow, some ink splattered, probably from this pen. Let's see if I can find where the ink came from. Might be on the cap. Nope, it's on my finger. Look at that. Look at all the ink in my fingers. From just uncapping the pen, I've been working with ink all day. So I want to have ink going everywhere. Dry the smudge down here just in case, and I can white it out better. What was I talking about before I noticed the ink spot? Oh yeah, right. So down here, so you got spider. This because we've introduced Athena in the previous strip, and she's all messed up. I started explaining a little bit why the gods look weird. So I have to introduce how we see them. And I had a long thing about why gods look weird. And in the next 2 pages, there's just going to be a little one-off comment on it because it was just getting too detailed, too into the weeds with my world building. And I don't think we need that much right off the bat in the first part of the daily strip. So there's going to be a comment on why Athena looks weird a few panels, almost like she's deconstructing. And it's going to get explained. I don't mind spoiling for you guys. It's going to get explained that the more magic you have in you, the more you see the magic in other creatures. So the reason why Athena looks weird in the previous strip is because she's being seen by Arachne before she becomes a full-on witch. So all the weirdness that she's seeing in the fully revealed Athena is the magical construction of Athena here. And I'm going to get into that. There's very quickly, I do actually, I'll be proud of myself. The new version of these 2 pages does a lot of the world building a lot faster. So the spider talks a little bit about Athena, talks a little bit about Athena becoming Minerva, doesn't say much, and then basically says that, you know, we go back to a weird looking, way over here, weird looking Athena with all the energy lines are going to be doing, not Kirby dots per se, just kind of a weird kind of like fluid energy type being. Then I come back here and have the spider talk about like how the gods were dealt with, why there's so few gods around in the modern age, and then a wizard shows up because I wanted to draw a wizard. Initially, the wizard was showing up a couple pages later, but I like the wizard showing up here, and plus I get to do a little thing about the spider saying, "Sorry, bud, people are here for the naked witches," and honestly, that's why I'm here too, for the wizard. I think we've been aligned so far. So I'm having fun writing this a lot of fun writing this. There is a little part of me that having today in the studio, I watched Hellboy the Crooked Man, and I gotta say the word of mouth reviews are a lot better than the "oh god, the trailer looks cheap" reviews that we got inundated with for so long. Hellboy the Crooked Man is very much a low budget horror movie. But in the good sense, the way, you know, low budget horror movies used to be amazing back when I was a kid, and you could rent something from like Blockbuster or Rogers, and you would just enjoy the hell out of a movie that didn't have the money to throw everywhere. I gotta say, as shitty as special effects have become, the studios nickel and diming everything. And that, if anyone's curious why special effects seem to have dropped off, it's literally that studios decided they didn't want to spend money on it anymore, so they spend as little money on special effects as possible. So Hellboy is a $20 million film with a $60 million script, if that makes sense. In terms of like, I think it would cost around $60 million to shoot the script as written to a higher level. I think that's a fair way to put it. And I think the story makes up for it. The acting is good for the most part. The guy playing Hellboy is good. He's not. I gotta say, it's like there's a part of me that, I mean, Ron Perlman. Everyone wants to rave about Ron Perlman. I love Ron Perlman. I loved him before he became like Guillermo del Toro's go-to guy. I loved him in Quest for Fire and so many other movies. It was just, and it's like Hellboy gave him like a career resurgence, and we all benefited from that. I don't think the director of Crooked Man is as good or as experienced as the previous two directors for Hellboy. I think have I talked about the Harbor Hellboy movie? The director was a lot better than that movie indicates. I really have a feeling there was a tremendous amount of studio interference in that movie. because there's a reason why directors don't go promoting their movies, and that's usually when there's so much interference that they can't make the movie they thought they were going to make. And I have a feeling that's why. God, why am I blanking name on this? He directed Solomon Kane movie too, I think. He's generally pretty good. He's done some Game of Thrones stuff. He's like done a lot of really, really good movies over the years and TV work. And again, none of it big budget, but it was good. It was watchable. And so for his Hellboy movie to be such a borderline incoherent mess of things, David Harbour's character being all over the map repeatedly. I mean, there's a scene where he gets shot at as he's approaching BPRD headquarters, and he loses his shit. And that didn't strike me as kind of like a Hellboy thing. Hellboy doesn't strike me as the type of person to lose his shit that easily. So. All right, so the new actor, great. Yeah, Purefoy was great. I mean, it's so rarely the actors that are the issue with these movies. It's more often than not production interfering with the story and production interfering with final cut. I thought Solomon Kane was about, I think problem is a lot of movies end up being at about 60 to 70% of where they need to be a good movie. That's going to seem a little weird. That's just my working theory here. So a really good movie is likely, like we're talking like, Tarantino, best Scorsese, Christopher Nolan movies. I think the best of their movies are probably around 80 to 90% of what they hope to get on the screen. And because there's filmmakers of a certain level of quality, they can get most of that on the screen. The less experienced, the less masterful of the craft you are, I think you end up hitting less of it. So if you're not Christopher Nolan or Scorsese or Tarantino, you get given a script. Let's say the screenplay is like 80% there. 80% of the movie you need is in that screenplay. But because you're not as much a master of the medium and craft as, say, the other directors I mentioned, I really think you're going to fall short. It's just the way. Put this here. There we go. Just want to get that ball of the hand coming off the side of the finger there. These spiders are so dark. There's part of me that was tempted to do them like a very, very, almost like a cartoony spider. That felt wrong. I was going to do Black Widow too, and I felt that felt wrong too. It felt that Black Widows are not in character enough with. We do. I don't know. I honestly, yeah, Hellboy is kind of like his worst reaction is usually, "Oh crap." He says "fuck" a little too often in the new movie, but it is what it is. I'm gonna probably white paint out. Look at that! I just figured out where the ink came from because I dragged it out earlier, and now I know where all the ink is splattering from because I refilled this marker. I think I bought a bad batch of markers that were underfilled. So just wipe this down. Check the hand for solid blacks so I don't get any down. Put a nice panel border on that. And I'll just white paint out the little extras that I got happening at the edge of the panel border here. The one thing I have to worry about is if this was flooding, and I can see extra ink coming out again. Must have overfilled it. That means the cap here gets overfilled. So one of the tricks I'll do is you have to be careful of it because it means you might misplace your cap for a bit and then you have to go looking for it. I take some paper towel, I just stuff it in the cap as much as I can, twist it down. And if there's like loose bubbles of ink floating around in the cap, they'll get soaked up and they'll be less likely to spread everywhere and less likely to get on my fingers and my hands like this. What's that? A bit of paper. And that way I can just get back to work. Yeah, I can see here. Like, yeah, see there's too much ink in there. It shouldn't be coming down that far down in the furl. I overfilled it. My bad. I'll just put this somewhere where I can find this. You know, Anson, you're absolutely right. I have a feeling that a lot of studios have let TV take the role of what Roger Corman used to be responsible for back in the day. It really seems like with the overwhelming desire for content, studios, streaming services, who are essentially studios now. I don't think I wanted streaming services to be studios. I think we're experiencing a lot of creative backward movement from the drive to streaming taking over so much production, TV and everything. I mean, as a weird result, I mean, HBO gave us like film quality TV shows. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that was great. I think what HBO did was great. But right now, what we're seeing with the super crappy cuts that you got HBO making as they turned into Max. Sorry, Max. That we see that all these companies are now existing saying, oh, we were designed to make this much money. But now everything's contracted because we were never going to make that money because streaming is never that profitable. And so we have all these streaming services that are being propped up or merged by larger companies because they don't know how to say, you know what, let's just shut this shit down and go back to what worked. Because right now, the longer everything leans into maintaining streaming services, despite the fact that they're not profitable, they're still going to keep throwing good money after bad. Yeah, I'm just going to draw the panel borders first for all of this. Yeah, I gotta say, I really miss. I mean, a lot of people forget Ron Howard from Happy Days. Brilliant director. Even directed the Han Solo movie, which a lot of people didn't like, but it was actually quite a good movie. He started making movies with Roger Corman too. So did James Cameron. So did a lot of young filmmakers. I really think we could do so far worse by instituting, I want to say Tubi, because people are beating up on Tubi a lot because it's generally low budget TV for the most part. But in many ways, Hellboy Crooked Man looks like a Tubi movie. It looks like it's in that budget range. And I almost think like if you're HBO, I don't think you fold everything into HBO Max. What I do is I think you maintain the prestigious HBO as the big high-end streamer. And then you buy something like Tubi or AMC or any one of the other smaller streaming services and say, this is going to be our developmental tier. We're not going to put as much money into these productions. We're not going to expect them to make as much money, but these are going to be the learning tier movies. This is where we get our next James Camerons and Christopher Nolan's and Scorsese's and all that stuff. Yeah, I really hate the way that little bit of ink ends up being smudged everywhere. Let's see if I can erase some of it off here. It's one thing to clean it up in Photoshop, but it's so much nicer to just have the board clear. Yeah, it's also, if you erase off a ton of the ink, you actually get an easier time putting on your white paint. Hey, Stacy, how you doing? Coming in a little late, you missed me praising the heck out of Hellboy the Crooked Man. Not to say it's like one of my favorite movies of the year, but it's so much better than we were given any reason to think it was going to be. It's just, look at that, just a little bit of ink on the inside. And I don't think you can see it's so dark in there, but it looks like it caught all the black specks that were in that lid. And this does not look like it's still bleeding a little bit in the inside there. So there's still some more ink to be captured. Damn, it's like right back in there. I got Q-tips in my other. I restocked my Q-tips in my studio. I use them as art tools. So I have to dig some out of my bathroom where I keep them. How are we doing time-wise? 7:30. All right, so about another half hour. In fact, honestly, oh my God, there's a line in Crooked Man about how to tell how old a witch is. And I want to steal it. I'm going to ask Mike if I can, I don't know where I could fit it in yet, but I'm going to ask him if I can steal that line. And then credit him, of course. Because it's such a great line. I don't want to spoil it here, so I'm not going to say what the line is, but it's a really good line. Now, there's part of me that wants to just ink the wizard for tonight because it's so different from everything else. But let me ink at least the classic Athena. Oh, classic Athena here. Should probably wear my glasses. I keep forgetting to put them on. I'm usually doing stuff I don't need my glasses for when I'm just about to start streaming. The only time it actually works out perfectly is if I'm drawing right up until the stream starts. And that's usually me drawing something that's not related to the stream. While I was watching the Hellboy movie, I mean, I'm just going to keep talking about Hellboy because it's what's on my mind right now. While I was watching it, I would, as much as I think this actor and maybe even this director have earned a shot at a sequel, I don't think it's going to make enough money to warrant a sequel. What I would like to see is I'd like to see a return of animated Hellboy films. I thought of all the Hellboy product, I think the animated Hellboy movies are still my favorite. I thought they didn't have to negotiate with the studio or Guillermo del Toro, who had to fight with Mignola. I think Mignola had more control over those than anything else. So I'd like to see him get that control back again. But weirdly enough, what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see a Coraline style, or the Monster House, a mock 3D claymation style approach to Hellboy. I think that would be, I don't know, maybe it's more expensive, but I think that would be the perfect place for Hellboy. You could bring back everyone you wanted from a voice acting standpoint. I mean, you get Ron Perlman back if you really wanted, which I think a lot of people would like. His voice is, the new actor's voice is great. He's got a really solid Hellboy voice, but I mean, Ron Perlman defined it for so much of us. But I'm thinking about that series that Guillermo did on Netflix with the monsters living underground, and how well that worked. I really think a Netflix series of Hellboy, it wouldn't have to even be Netflix, but any series of Hellboy could be on Prime, where it's just do a season of 6 to 8 episodes, all CGI, um, and give us adaptations like Crooked Man. I mean, this is so much better than any of the other Hellboy content we've ever gotten. I mean, it's kind of weird to talk to people about this. There are moments in Golden Army which I thought were absolutely beautiful, but Golden Army was the movie that made me kind of wish that Guillermo would move on, because I felt it was becoming much more about Guillermo's fantasy take on things than Mignola's horror. And it's, if you know me at all, you know I'm a huge Hellboy fan, and I'm a Hellboy fan because of the comics and what makes some of the comics, not with the movies. The movies are entertaining, but I'd be this big a fucking Hellboy nerd, even if the movies were never made. It's very much the comics for me. So every time anything that hews closer to the comics is going to be already that much more interesting and watchable for me. That line's probably too long. I'll probably shave it back after. Yeah, the comics. The weird thing is Guillermo gave us a nice glimpse into Guillermo's version of the fantasy world, and I think the apogee of that comes out with Shape of Water. I think that was the ideal limit for what Guillermo wanted to do with Hellboy, which means it wasn't going to be Mignola's Hellboy ever. It was always going to be Guillermo del Toro's, which I get. If you're a director, you want the world to revolve around you a little bit. I get that. But I'm a comic creator too, so I kind of want the world to revolve a little bit around comic creators. So I'm much happier when Mike's getting his way with Hellboy than anyone else. And I mean, that's true, even if I never get a chance to work on Hellboy, which is clearly like bucket list item for me. I want this to come down there. These are both of these, Minerva and the Athena are based on ancient Greek busts. Not with too much detail paid to it, because again, this is an alternate reality world where witches exist in the way that they exist in here. So this is Athena, and that is a statue of Minerva. I made some changes just for my own drawing approach. The weird scale armor she has. This kind of throws me off, especially how small I'm drawing here. I'm going to be drawing her in a few more sequences later when her and Arachne have a relationship. Spoilers. Do I want to do anything there? Let me think about it. I may want to put like just some tonal shift here just to bring that dark coming back through here. I'm going to put a line on the paper there. Interesting. Heavy up that jaw, bring it down a bit. Probably. So we did that, and I just did tonal. Let me think about it. I'll save that in my head for now. I think I would have to scratch it. I would have to very much. I mean, it's not like I draw when I draw Mignola's characters for myself that they actually look like Mignola characters. I study the design. I think I feel like I'm fairly accurate with the designs, but I draw the way I draw. I think that's the best way to show respect. I don't believe that stealing Mike's style does him any benefits whatsoever. And there's enough people that did that already. I don't even remember if there's a period in the 90s where suddenly there was a small output of artists who were literally just ripping off Mike's style. I think it was part of it was, deadlines and stuff and people trying to figure out how to draw faster. So they just aped Mike's style thinking it was fast when it's not really a fast style. It's a very precise style. I'm going to be doing a silhouette on her face here. Just want to get the shadow right. Probably should be doing this with a thicker brush or nib. Good brush marker. Not quite. It's got a brushy tip. Probably going to do some white paint touch-ups on this after, just to pull up some highlights and do a little rendering on some of the tissues that are being hidden. I find that you work fastest with the tool you're most comfortable with. I was astounded once to see how fast a friend of mine inked with a brush. He just had so much control over that brush that all the lines came out exactly the way he wanted them to. And yes, I was jealous. Is there... Okay, that's looking like the silhouette I wanted. All right, cool. I find, yeah, I'm going to talk about mistakes too. I find that when I make mistakes in pen, I'm much more inclined to ignore them because of the fineness with which I make those mistakes. Like here, I'm using a 005. If like there's an accidental line here, a little bit of white paint, it's gone. Yeah, I'm going to be removing some of the line work from here. I don't like some of what I've done here. And here's the weird energy face I'm going to be working on again. So I talked about the initial spider. Initial story I was going to do for Witchtober was called Scarecrow, and it was entirely about a guy who was a modern day witch hunter, and that essentially means he's a bad guy. If hopefully that's not a surprise to anyone. And the reason he's a witch hunter gets into why he's a witch hunter, why he's hunting witches, and how he can actually find them. So that was, and all of a sudden you realize about a second weekend, it's literally pure on horror. And I'm thinking like after 2 years of essentially drawing nothing but naked smiling witches, I had a feeling that some people might be bothered by that coming out of nowhere as the first launch of a witch story. So it's not censorship because Scarecrow's probably, I've done so much work on it and I actually like the story. I've done so much work on that Scarecrow story. It's still going to be one of the main stories in the collection next year. Still probably going to start off with the one I started months ago, showing how I lay out a page and everything. That's still going to be the lead story, showing the women joining the coven. But there's so much stuff, world building going on around that. I'm really excited about all of it. is dying, I believe. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just a texture. It's making it harder for the ink to come out. Thanks so much. It's it's always terrified of overworking the shit, but you gotta find a way to get that energy going in somehow. My vision for the gods, and I'm probably going to return to them in some way in the witches at some point. I'm thinking there's, even though I talk about the gods largely being killed off by the giants and wizards and dragons and shit like that, which I think is pretty cool, because that means at some point I might be able to draw myself a dragon in here. Which would be, real fun. I like drawing dragons. But also giants and wizards and stuff fighting gods, which also means I get to draw different versions of the gods that I might never draw anywhere else. Thanks so much, Lucifer. Yeah, I'm only going to go for another 10, 15 minutes. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish inking this Athena panel here. And then I'm going to probably ink this big Gandalf here. And then I'll leave the rest for like after stream or something. Oh, a friend of mine asked me how much of an overlap I see between my Viking stuff and my witch stuff. I think there's going to be some like creative overlap, just in terms of like my processing, like how I write stories, how I develop characters and everything. That's all going to be there. But I don't think there's going to be an intentional attempt to make the witches and Vikings coexist. Not really something I'm particularly interested in from a creative standpoint. I just want to tell good stories with both. In as much as that there's overlap, like if I end up doing Thor in a witch story, and suddenly I'm doing Thor in a Viking story, unlikely, to be honest. I'm unlikely to put any of the gods, the Norse gods, I should say, in the Viking stories. There's already a plan for doing some Russian gods for one story. If a friend backs out, I'll be drawing it. There we go. That's pretty crazy looking. There's going to be some white paint and stuff like there too. Let me just, I actually do want a little bit of a heavier line in there. Do you want a brush for this? Brush pen, maybe? I have so many to choose from. I don't want to hit it with white paint yet. Just use this. I'll use this one. Make sure it's not leaking again. Oh, this is not one I refilled. All right, cool. Let me get a line straight down there. Just looking for texture to really just make this thing pop. And there'll be some white paint and stuff on top of that, which will be fun. That's an 8. That's the 1. That's way too fine for what I want. Oh, you know what? Let's start with the 1. Let's dump into this last panel for tonight. Checking for ink. Look at that. Look at that. Just out of nowhere. Was that on this pen? Let me just trying to find the ink that's on where this came from. I think it must be from the pen I just used. The other thick one. The pens with the thicker nibs generally throw out a lot of ink when they're capped, if they roll around a lot, which a lot of my pens do because everything's a monster mess here in my studio. Something with drawing beards is just so much fun. Not sure why. It's just one of the things I enjoy drawing. Yeah, I think, we're already just after 8 here. So let me just finish this wizard and then I'll call it a night. I think an hour is, anything more than an hour is a little greedy, stealing your time. And I don't want to spoil the reading experience too much for you guys tomorrow. It was so tempting to draw Ian McKellen as my standard, Gandalf wizard type guy. But his hair a little darker on this side here. But I realized, that's a little too much, especially if I want to later, get a quote from Hellboy in here. Too many IPs coming in, not going to be a good idea. There's going to be some more white paint being popped in here too, because that's what I do. Half of what I do is white paint stuff. Excuse me. I might actually pull some white out here around the bottom just to create that space there, especially when I correct that. All right, well, I think that's where I'm going to stop tonight. Most of what's left are like the spider here on a little bit of Woody standing on the first page. Then tiny little wizard figure, then tiny little spider on top of the wizard staff, and a close-up profile of the wizard with some more lettering. That's all really easy stuff to do. All right, so hopefully next Sunday I will be all caught up. Not anticipating because it's a whole week, a whole 7 days worth of strips. I'm going to be trying to do 2 a day. So I already got the next 2 pencils, but so I should be able to post these 2 tomorrow, next 2 on Tuesday, hopefully 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and I'll catch me up through most of the week. We're on the 13th, and I've only posted, I think, 6. So I'm 7 behind. So hopefully within 1 week, I can catch up by 7. Yeah, that's it. You guys have an amazing week. Hopefully I will remember to post the link to the session earlier. I came up with like a nice kind of like generic, all the Coven posts are going to be generally the same with like the Coven image I created for this year. And yeah, so next week, more of this. Essentially, we only have, the 13th, 2 more weeks. So the 20th and 27th. So 2 more Sundays of Witchtober, and then the 31st hitting on the Thursday will be the last of them, and I'll be able to do the finale. So hopefully that'll be pretty cool. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Also about this story, I gotta say right off the bat, the intent is to not. Scarecrow was always the story I ended up rejecting. Scarecrow was a story I always knew was going to be in the collection, the Witch House collection. This story, it may become a stretch goal. It may become a separate little book, like a tiny little 15-page comic book on its own, separate from the actual book itself, the 120 some odd page collection of stories, because this is all landscape form. It's all comic strip format. So there's a part of me that kind of wants to do a landscape format book for this story, just a tiny little thing. And we might be able to do that as a stretch goal. So it's like if we hit 20, 25,000 again, somewhere in there, we'll say, okay, if we hit an extra 2,000, what we'll do is we'll print this as a mini comic, include it with all the books. So I got to talk to the Zoop people about how that works financially, but that's the current operating plan with this. All right, so as I now pull out the white paint, and I'm doing stuff that I wasn't going to do until like later. Get rid of that. Yeah, get rid of some of that chin. That works. That works. That works. Bigger eye, just a little bit bigger. I can trim back that now. Kind of like lame ass Kirby dots. Probably like, there you go. Stretch them out a bit. I'll circle them or something later to get some energy into that. Fix that later. That's working okay. All right, so so do a little. I'll do some other smaller fine line highlights later. All right, so you guys have a great night. Hopefully, I'll see you all next Sunday. There'll be witches being posted all week. Hopefully, by the end of this Friday, we're into the Arachne Athena relationship that I plan to do, which is going to be closer to what we're used to seeing with witch art, and probably the first time I'm really like incorporating a lot of censorship in the strips posted. Online. They'll be all fine on Patreon, of course. Nothing's going to get censored there. But the nudity in scenes between Athena and Arachne are going to be more sexual in nature. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, because I'm looking forward to drawing that stuff. All right. So again, saying goodnight again, 7 days. See you at 7 p.m. next Sunday. I don't know if you noticed, I've actually changed. Instead of doing Sunday night live drawing, I'm just doing SNLD. I've been doing this for over a year. I think I can abbreviate a few things. You guys have a great night. I've been saying that. I think I said that like 100 times now. Take care. Bye-bye.